Hey everybody, we're here to talk to a lot of the folks behind the great new film, The Last Holiday, including Jabari Red and Jussie Smollett. Thank you and congratulations on this film.
Thank you so much.
I saw it yesterday. It's very well done and very moving. So
Thank
congratulations.
you. Thank you very much.
Well, Jussie, how did you come up with the idea for this?
Actually, about 8 years ago,
Yeah,
I lost my father almost a decade ago, exactly on the
yeah,
same day that Empire first aired on television.
yeah,
And so I was dealing with a lot of grief and really didn't kind of know what to do with all of that.
yeah,
And just really thinking about the different, uh, the different stories and the different things that we deal with grief and how grief is such a kind of a peak and a valley and a windy road, if you will. Of one minute
yeah,
you're crying, the next minute you're laughing, and then the next minute you're feeling guilty about that. Any success that you may have, you might enjoy it, but then you might also kind of resent that success. All of those things. And I thought about mainly my mother, who in the 70s and 80s, in 1975, she married, as a Black woman, she married into a non-Black family, my father.
yeah.
And that wasn't always, particularly in that time, it was not always easy to navigate. And, she dealt with a lot. And after my father passed, being able to watch her own grief and her own journey of healing, although they were no longer together, and how she bonded with his mother, my grandmother. And it was really beautiful to watch, but it was also very inspiring. And it was something that I needed in order to realize that what I really needed to do, although he was no longer here in the physical form, is I needed to do some work and make amends with my dad.
Yeah.
And that's really where this whole idea came from with, you know, well, what happens when you lose someone and you just have so much more that you need to say?
Hmm.
And how do you heal? Because you'll never get that opportunity to necessarily say it, but then you realize that you can have that opportunity. I know personally that I made amends with my father, not just by myself. He did the work too, even though it was from the other side. And
Yeah.
so that's really what this movie came to be. Um, I also have so many mentors that are in their 60s and above who, during the 80s at height of the AIDS pandemic, they were, kind of extracted from their loved one's legacy, not able to go to see their partner in the hospital, not able to be at the funeral, not able to join in on the celebration of life that they were a part of because
Hmm.
maybe the family was there and they extracted them because they had the power to do so. So all of those things were really in my mind. We were creating The Lost Holiday. And then I brought on Jarrell Chesney as a co-writer, and he's just wonderful, one of my close friends.
Yeah.
Had never had a script produced, but I know he was brilliant. And we wrote the script together 3 years ago. Signed on Vivica and Mona Scott Young, Tressa Smallwood, Tom Wilson, Eddie McLeod. They all came on board, and here we are, blessed to talk to you. And we're in theaters coming up this Friday.
And congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Jussie, can you sort of talk about the relationship between Jason and Damien?
Yeah, it's a relationship. When we first meet them, they're not necessarily in the best space. They're not
Yeah.
necessarily in, this harmonious, loving relationship, but there's still a lot of love there. And they tend to be hurting each other for every reason and no reason at all.
Yeah.
As sometimes that happens in relationships. And so what's sad is that they were just making amends for something that happened before he sadly taken away. So again,
Yeah.
there are all those elements of God, I missed out on that opportunity to get it right. And we could have gotten it right. And now here we are. Jason blames himself deep down inside, but at their core, they have a very tender, very loving, very healthy, actually, relationship, but
Hmm.
they're just going through a rough patch.
Yeah.
And sadly, he's taken away in the midst of that rough patch.
Yeah.
I really wanted to show, always tried every project that I do, to show a healthy, loving relationship through all of the ins and outs of, toxicity and all of the things that we possibly go through. And it was important to me to show a loving, same gender loving Black couple. You know, um, it's what I tried to do with B Boy Blues. It's what I tried to do when I was on Empire,
Yeah.
and it's what I'll forever be trying to do is to show just how much more alike we all are than not. We live in a world right now where we're talking at each other. We're not talking to each other. We're not trying to get to know each other. That's what the problem is right now. It's like nobody's understanding what the other person is going through and how much more alike we are than not. So I hope that people get that from Jason and Damien watching them, and maybe you know it's a bit of a warning, if you will, to make amends, do that forgiveness work,
Yeah.
do that work that you need to do it today because you might not get tomorrow.
Yeah. This is sort of a two-part question. Can you talk about Cassandra and then obviously, how sort of the collision of Cassandra and Jason initially?
Yeah. Vivica A. Fox, who is one of my favorite scene partners in the world. And I've been blessed to have so many incredible scene partners. And she's up there with best. And what we see is they're both in their own personal grief-stricken world, and they're dealing
Okay.
with their own grief for completely different reasons, but around the same person. So you have Jason that's kind of blaming her, kind of, well, any issue that I had with this man was because of you,
Yeah.
and I think that is, and then here she is, she's just like, well, I don't know you, but I also know what's best for my son. So there's this battle there's this power dynamic, and there's this battle for power. And really, when you get down to it, it's grief stricken, but it also has a little bit of their ego. And once they let that subside, finally they get to the point where they can kind of see eye to eye. It doesn't necessarily mean that they agree on everything, but
Yeah.
they can see eye to eye, and they can see what's most important. And that's that little baby that they got to make sure that they take care of. So I think it's just a really beautiful story, and kind of it's oddly this weird take on a buddy dramedy, if you will.
Exactly.
That they don't like each other very much in the beginning. They don't understand each other or care much for each other at all. But through time and through their common bond of wanting to carry on Damien's legacy and make the mistakes that they made right, they
Hmm.
have to bond with each other, and they have to.
Yeah. Was Vivica always your first choice?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
she just,
In the Bible of the film that I wrote, that I gave
yeah,
to Jarrell before we started writing the script, the
yeah.
character was not named Cassandra. The character was named Viv, and it's because Vivica was always the person. Even before I brought it to her, she was always the person. I got to direct her on Empire a couple of times, and
Yeah.
she's just wonderful. And I can't imagine anyone playing Cassandra other than her. She was so dedicated and so collaborative, and just wonderful. She was always the.
Yeah, it's a really great ensemble. Can you sort of talk about the challenge of, writing this, producing this, starring in it, directing it, and how that all came together, how you managed it?
Yeah, I think we managed pretty well, and I'm really proud of us all for doing so. Wasn't always easy. This is not a big budget film at all.
Yeah,
This is a small budgeted film, and what I know for sure is I started directing with music videos, and
yeah.
then transitioned from music videos to episodic by doing Empire, which had such a the music videos that I was directing did not have a budget, and
Hmm.
then transitioning into episodic with a huge conglomerate, like this huge juggernaut hit of Empire that had such a large budget, and being able to see all of the things and that the budget went to that was really smart, and then all the ways that we possibly wasted money, as you do sometimes on a big budgeted film, big budgeted project. So now going into this, understanding about time, understanding about scheduling, understanding about the script, and making sure that there's not extra pages because you're dealing with an amazing cast that's going to improvise,
Yeah.
and making sure that you're making your day. All of those technical things are the things that I learned for my first film and certainly throughout this. And I think that we killed it. I think that we really were able to do it on our own. We didn't have some huge studio, behind us or anything like that. This truly was
Hmm.
my company, a supermassive movie with Tom Wilson and my mom as an executive producer and Eddie Mack. Then there was Mona Scott Young, Mona me, and Jussie Smallwood with Megamind. So we just did it. We just did it. Like, I know it seems like y'all did this. We shot it in 11 days. We like, it was insane, but we got it done, and here we are. So
Now, you've done some filming here in Atlanta, correct?
I'm sorry.
You've done some filming in Atlanta?
I have shot in Atlanta before. I've never directed anything in Atlanta, but I
Yeah.
shot, I filmed, I was on an episode of Star, and we did that in Atlanta.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love Atlanta. I do a lot of music recording in Atlanta. I've never really had the opportunity to fully film there, and it's interesting because at a point we were going to shoot this film in Atlanta.
Hmm.
Um, was originally the film took place in North Carolina, and we were going to shoot it in North Carolina, and then it became Atlanta, and then we changed the location to be Los Angeles, just because for budget reasons that was the
Yeah.
easier place to go because that's where the whole cast was, you know. But yeah, I love Atlanta. We just left Atlanta.
Yeah. You just you've had some challenges in your
Sure.
career. Can you sort of talk about the fact that you're so busy right now and how you've been able to move on and just do
Mm-hmm.
such great work these days?
Say that one more
Can you
time.
start talking about the great work you're doing these days? Sort of being
Thank
able
you. You know, yeah, it's definitely been, you know, unless you've been living under a rock, you know, there's been some difficult times.
to,
It certainly
yeah,
has. But you know, we just push through and push through the pain, push
yeah,
through the struggle, and just keep moving. I mean, this is something that I'm never going to stop doing. I'm never going to stop doing what I do. This is what I do. This is I'm a grown man, and this is my life. This is my career.
exactly.
So, you know, as things happen, you have to sort of look at yourself. It's very easy to start looking at yourself through the eyes of other people.
Yeah,
But once you check yourself and you check your ego and your emotions and all of that type of stuff, you realize that life goes on. And
yeah,
at the end of the day, for everything that we've gone through, the next person has gone through something and something probably worse. So,
yeah.
you know, I recognize the things that I've gone through and it was very painful and it's,
Mhm.
you know, we're still pushing through, but at the same time, I also recognize my privilege and I
Yeah,
recognize how blessed I am and how grateful I am to not only have the support system that I have, but the platform that I have to defend myself, to, you know, it's just life is life, and you keep on moving, and hopefully you can you know hopefully who you really are shows up, and that is the lifesaver that will always float to surface.
gotcha. Jesse, you mentioned this earlier, but can you sort of talk about the importance of queer representation and positive images of LGBTQ people in your work?
Absolutely. It's always, again, I've been so blessed to, from Jamal Lyon to Jason Holiday to being able to play Langston Hughes in Marshall with Chadwick Boseman. Those types of characters are so important to me because if I would have had those characters growing up, I would have had a different understanding of who I was at a much earlier phase in my life.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why representation is so important, because people need to see the people that live lives similar to them, but they also need to see the people that live lives not like
Yeah.
theirs. And you can find those similarities. I think that what we're seeing is that we're seeing that this is just a family. This is just a couple. This is pain, and everybody from these society would have you believe that we have so much less in common than we actually do. But when you go to these screenings, and we've screened everywhere from Miami to London to Seattle to DC to New York, well, New York and Atlanta, Los Angeles, and everybody from all walks of life, Black, white, Latino, Asian, gay, straight, trans, bi, everybody has felt something and they shared their stories of grief, of hope, of joy. And that right there just shows me that I grew up loving certain films. I grew up loving Still Magnolias. I grew up loving Soul Food and these amazing films, you know, My Best Friend's Wedding and all of these amazing romantic comedies and family dramas. But I never saw a gay character. There were no gay characters. I remember the closest thing to it in Still Magnolias was a joke about, you know, Shirley MacLaine's character's nephew.
Yeah.
And you know, but at the same time, I still bonded and identified with those films
Yeah.
because it was about love, it was about loss, it was about friendship and family and all of those things in between. So what I know is that for something like the Lost Holiday or any project that I've been able to be a part of, we're doing the same thing. You may not see someone that lives or loves or looks exactly like you, but I guarantee you, sit down and give it a chance, you will
Mhm.
see the ways that you identify with these characters. And that to me is what true representation is.
Gotcha. Thanks so much and congratulations. The film
Thank
is
you so
Last
much.
Holiday. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Jussie Smollett, and congratulations on the film.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Thanks.